at sportsnolan.com, and we're glad that you could join us here this afternoon. 25 years, so it's been a marvelous time to celebrate the best of the Saints over that time. God willing, 25 years, we'll be standing here again and talking all about another great 25 years in New Orleans Saints history. As we get started today, this is a name you're going to hear a lot here this afternoon, because you got three of them that carry the name. It's pretty special. To provide our invocation to get things started here this afternoon, I call upon Father Peter Finney of St. Clement of Rome Parish to come provide our invocation. Father Finney?
I invite you to please stand and call to mind that we are in the presence of God. Good and gracious God, we pause at the beginning of our time together to set our hearts and minds on the reason for our gathering, to give thanks. In particular way, we offer gratitude for this year's Hall of Fame inductees, Leroy Glover and Pete Finney. They, who through excellence in quarterback and deadline pressure, who through avoiding towering offensive linemen and limited sidebar interests, have proven their worth at their crafts. May our time together help them to know a portion of the joy felt in so many from their life's work that in some way has brought together your holy people, a royal family, a Houdat nation of your own possession. We say this by concluding, Amen.
Please remain standing. At this time, I will call upon Pastor Michael Green of Lifegate Church to provide God Bless America here this afternoon. So, Michael?
America has a lot of problems, but nobody's trying to get out of it. You ever notice that? A man wrote a prayer in 1918. You don't know maybe the verse, but on the chorus you will know. And I'm going to ask you to sing. While the storm gathers across the sea, let us land that's free. Let us all be grateful for this land so fair, as we lift our voices in a solemn prayer. Sing it. God bless America, land that I love, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless.
You may be seated. Thank you. Of course, the New Orleans Saints are in the midst of another outstanding season, and don't forget, this Sunday in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome at 325, the San Francisco 49ers come calling. It will be our Hall of Fame weekend with alumni present at the game and our inductee to be honored on the field at halftime. And, of course, the Saints have provided us with incredible moments over many, many years now, and this year is starting to look like it may be another one of those fantastic seasons and great moments. Many people make this possible. Here today to share a few words on behalf of the New Orleans Saints and on the honorees today as well, as a gentleman who serves as president, CFO of the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans for that matter as well. Born and raised, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Dennis Lauscher. Dennis?
Thank you, Ken. It's as always, it's a pleasure and honor to be here with everyone. I need to begin by saying thank you. Thank you to all the volunteers. Thank you to everyone on staff that helps, the committee that selects, everyone that has a part in the Hall of Fame. As Ken said, it's been 25 years, and we're going to be knocking on 50 years as a franchise here in the next few. And thanks to the work, the hard work of so many people, we're able to keep our the life and history of our franchise going. So thank you very much for that. On behalf of the Saints organization, Rita, who's here, Mr. and Mrs. Tom Benson, many of our staff who we have seated out here today, on behalf of all of them, congratulations to our 2 honorees today. Let me begin by just remarking about a true icon in sports journalism, not only in our community, but really nationally. Peter Finney has done a tremendous job, as I said, in this community through the Times-Picayune, and he's a special journalist and a special writer. Besides just reporting what was happening, he gave his opinion, and he did something that many great journalists do. They make us think about the moment. They make us think about the accomplishment of the athlete. They make us think about the situation. And a lot of times what we're thinking about is much larger than just the game. It's about life in general. And truly, I know he has many, many fans, and he has been a remarkable person for our community. And he's done this great journalism, I think with I don't want to be biased here, but a better eye for football, and he's covered our teams over many, many years, and he's done this and had all the success. But at the same time, he was a tremendous husband to his late wife Dee Dee, and a great father and grandfather. So he was able to do all this and also have a tremendous family life as well. So he truly is an idol for many of us in the community, in the industry, and everyone else. On the football side, Mickey Loomis and I were talking before we came over here, and he said of all the things that of all the mistakes that he had, the biggest mistake was ever letting this guy out the door. Leroy Glover, can't say enough. He had in 2000, he had 17 sacks from the defensive tackle position, which is truly remarkable. I'm sure all of his peers, and I'm sure there's a lot of offensive linemen who scratch their heads on that. He was named the NFC's Defensive Player in 2000. He was known for unbelievable strength and great technique. Many of our coaches, we talked about this the other day, everyone was in true admiration, our coaching staff, of the game that he had. He was a member of the NFL's All-Decade team, and he made the Pro Bowl an astounding 6 times. He was named All-Pro 4 of the times, and he played for 13 seasons, racking up 433 tackles and 83 and a half sacks. He forced 8 fumbles, and he had 2 interceptions. And he was an incredibly durable player, and we were very honored that he was a New Orleans Saints. He's a tireless worker, represented the city and the organization, and he helped us win our first playoff game over the St. Louis Rams, who, ironically, he works for now. So on behalf of our entire organization, we say congratulations to you, Leroy, and to you, Peter Finney. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Dennis. Each and every year we like to commemorate and remember those who have passed on, that were part of the New Orleans Saints organization or contributed to the New Orleans Saints organization in some fashion. And unfortunately, we had quite a few that we lost this past year. For our remembrance and our video tribute to departed New Orleans Saints, we draw your attention to the screens on either side of the room as we pay tribute to those that have gone before us this past year. Give all of them a round of applause for being part of the New Orleans Saints organization. Time now for our first presentation, and it's a very special one because it goes to a very special person who's contributed in tremendous fashion to not only the media industry, but to our community as a whole. Anyone that's come in contact with this gentleman over the course of time would certainly speak volumes about what he has done, not only in his profession, but the way he has conducted himself and treated people in the process. He's been an inspiration to younger journalists for many years, myself included, because of the way he's gone about his business. Always had an ear for you, always had a kind word for you, and even a lighthearted moment joke or two now and then. Not only that, but for many, many years, he put up with Buddy. That was pretty tough to do. The Joe Gemelli Fleur Award is presented to an individual who's contributed to the New Orleans Saints organization in timeless fashion, tirelessly, and positively. Needless to say, when you're in the journalism business, sometimes everything you say and write won't be positive, but no one would ever accuse this gentleman of being personal, and no one would ever accuse him of not being truthful and honest and having integrity in everything that he did. At this time, we draw your attentions to the big screens once more as we honor the career, the life of our Joe Gemelli Fleur Award recipient for 2013, Mr. Peter Finney.
A New Orleans native, Peter Finney grew up loving sports. His life would be defined by sports, both on the playing courts and from the press box. Finney attended Jesuit High School, where he cut his teeth at writing, and went on to attend Loyola University of New Orleans, where he played basketball and ultimately coached. Upon his graduation from Jesuit, Finney started his journalism career at the States Item newspaper. Over the course of his career, Finney enjoyed the pleasure of covering the New Orleans Pelicans baseball team, Tulane, UNO, LSU, the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Jazz, New Orleans Hornets, and the New Orleans Pelicans basketball team, along with many Super Bowls among his many assignments. Finney covered LSU's national championship football teams in 1958, 2003, and 2007. Finney covered the New Orleans Saints Super Bowl championship season of 2009 and Tulane's unbeaten season in 1998. Finney is a member of the All-State Sugar Bowl Media Selection Committee and was a charter member and remains a member of the Saints Hall of Fame Media Selection Committee. Finney has worked in the industry ever since graduating from Jesuit and has experienced an illustrious career spanning 68 years, including for the Times-Picayune since it merged with the States Item. Finney has been inducted into the All-State Sugar Bowl Greater New Orleans Sports Hall of Fame, the Loyola Athletics Hall of Fame, the LSU Manship School of Communications Hall of Fame, and the Louisiana Sportswriters Hall of Fame. Finney has been named the Louisiana Sportswriters Association Columnist of the Year 4 times, and in 1989, he received the Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism. He was also named Sportswriter of the Year for Louisiana from the National Sportscasters and Sportswriters Association 17 times. In 1971, he was named the Jesuit High School Alumnus of the Year. February 6th and 7th of 2010 was a special time for Finney, as well as for his hometown New Orleans Saints. Finney received the prestigious Dick McCann Memorial Award from the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the same weekend that longtime New Orleans Saint Ricky Jackson was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the weekend ended with the Saints winning Super Bowl 44. Sports enthusiasts continue to enjoy the privilege of reading the columns of Finney, who is the only journalist to have covered the franchise through its entire history. Earlier this year, Finney received another outstanding honor, the A.J. Liebling Award for Outstanding Boxing Writing presented by the Boxing Writers Association of America. Not bad for a kid from the Crescent City who has lived out his dream in his hometown while remaining a devout family man of deep faith, courage, dignity, and integrity in a sometimes volatile industry. On September 17, 1967, the Saints played their first ever NFL contest at Tulane Stadium against the Los Angeles Rams. John Gilliam returned Bruce Gossett's kickoff 94 yards for a touchdown, much to the delight of a would-be neutral observer, as Finney recalled.
One story that sticks out in my mind, I saw pictures of John Gilliam, running the opening kickoff back of that first game in Tulane Stadium, the first Saints game. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in the press box about 4 seats away from Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner of the NFL. And when Gilliam broke through and ran for the touchdown, Rozelle came out of his seat and said, "Go, that's the way to go." And I looked at him and I said, "There's no cheering in the press box." And he was embarrassed and he sat down right away. I'll never forget that, the look on Rozelle's face. But it was a great, all going back there. But going back to Gemelli, they talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. No one saw more lights. He always saw a light at the end of the tunnel. And it was a long tunnel, believe me, because, boy, one losing season after another. But, Joe, he was born with a fleur de lis on his forehead. And he was just unbelievable. He oozed optimism. And of all the Who-Dats, no one was more optimistic than Joe.
Please welcome your 2013 Joe Gemelli Fleur de Lis Award winner, Peter Finney.
At this time, we're going to call upon Pete Jr. to come up and say a few words on behalf of Dad. Pete Jr. first.
It's really quite an honor for me, on behalf of my sisters and brothers who are here today, to thank the Saints Hall of Fame for recognizing my dad's really legendary sports writing career with the Joe Gemelli Award. I was asking my dad about Joe Gemelli, and Joe Gemelli, if you remember back in the 60s and 70s, he was almost in the paper every day with a picture. It was a group picture. And my dad asked him one time, "Joe, how do you get into so many pictures?" He says, "Pete, it's simple. You stand in the center and you put your left arm here and you put your other arm, and they can't crop you out." So that was Joe Gemelli's, he knew how to market himself. 68 years of doing one job, and really with a master's touch. It's quite an achievement for my dad. I won't bore you with a lot of stats, but I will tell you that my dad is the father of 6 children, 20 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren. He's a better man and he's a better father than he is a writer. So I'll say that. Like my sisters and brothers, really my life was changed. We grew up around newspapers and reading and books. And I can't tell you what a rush it was. We would come home. In those days, they had something called an afternoon daily newspaper. Do you remember that? The States item. And it would be on the doorstep of our house. And so every day around 3:30, I'd rush and get the paper. And there on the front page of the sports page was my dad's column. And, to experience that and to have people kind of recognize who he was really a rush for a young kid. I had a class picture once in 3rd grade, and I remember writing it on the back of the class picture, "To my playful father." That's who he was. He was a kind, just generous, and always just fun-loving dad. And, I used to always say, kids would say, "Well, my dad can beat up your dad." Well, my dad couldn't beat up your dad, but he could out-metaphor your dad. So he could say really in one sentence what most people take 1,000 words to say. One of my all-time great lines, and excuse me, I know this is a Saints uplifting gathering, but Mike Ditka, let's just say he didn't like to burn the midnight oil, and when he got fired, finally, my dad wrote, "Mike Ditka coached the Saints as though he were double parked." We had a lot of perks, going to Saints games, being the sons and daughters of a sports writer. We got to go free to the Saints games. So my dad would pack us in the back of the VW bus, all 6 of us, and we picked up some people along the way, any strangers. We went to George Sweeney's house. I remember picking up his son, and my dad would drive. One day, in the hatch of the VW, he took a turn on Ulloa Street a little bit too fast, and one of the Sweeney kids fell out the back of the hatch. Is just a flesh wound. Don't worry. It was just a flesh wound. That VW bus played a really important part in our lives. My dad and mom raised 6 kids on a sports writer's salary. So our summer vacations were to the Trade Winds Motor Hotel in Biloxi. But the big thing was if you got the VW bus over the I-10 high-rise, then you knew you could go on vacation because you'd start out at 60, you'd be 20 by the time you get to the hill. If you got over the hill, you went to vacation. Finally, he wrote a book, The Fighting Tigers, about LSU football. And suddenly he had a little bit of money in his pocket, and we wound up going to the Dude Ranch in Gulf Hills in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, where the orange juice was coming out of the fountain at breakfast. If you hold your cup up, the orange juice and the bacon was this thick. We couldn't believe it. I said, Dad, can you write another book, please? It was great. One of the greatest, I think, things about my dad is his inquisitiveness. He's always, in the mood to talk about what do people want to write about. And I'll never forget this. The VW bus, again, going across the causeway. The Saints were training at St. Paul's in Covington. And my dad just, one day, he zoomed through the toll booth. They had a toll booth on the South Shore. And the guy says, stop, come back. So my dad pulls it in reverse. He said, oh, man, I'm so sorry. I was thinking about my next column. And the guy let him go. But it was something. Buddy D. My dad was on Buddy D's show from the press box the night Buddy actually put the bag on his head for the first time. Now, you can imagine, Buddy told him he was going to do this in a commercial break. And now, Buddy was hard enough to understand, when you had the lip reading, you could read his lips. Can you imagine trying to decipher him when you put a bag over his head? You couldn't do it. My dad was with Buddy once when they met the governor in the governor's mansion, and Edwin Edwards tells Candy, his then wife, Candy, this is the guy, talking to Buddy, this is the guy from New Orleans television who talks funny. That was Edwin Edwards' description of Buddy D. My dad taught us all to be fair and kind. He taught us to be, and I think that's been the hallmark of his writing. He's been tough when necessary, but always fair, and he was always entertaining and inspiring. He lifted spirits. So he's often said, I don't do anything special. All I do is write. Well, I'm just here to tell you that, Dad, your writing has given hundreds of thousands of people in this community just countless hours of inspiration and hope and enjoyment, and we're here to honor you today because of what you do, and especially because of the man you are, Dad.
Thank you. I don't know what else to say. It's just, I've been so lucky, so blessed. I had a great wife, have a great family, and it's just like I keep repeating myself, I haven't had a job for 70 years, it seems like. And it's just great to be involved in sports, to talk to over the years, the passing parade of athletes who come through, and it's just been one story after another, and it's like I just keep repeating myself. It's like I haven't had a job, and I just hope it can continue going on. But I'm in definite twilight right now, definite twilight. And that young man, that father over there, the homily man, he's the man, and I just enjoy listening to him speak, and he's just fantastic. And but the whole family's been great. And what can I say? Thank you. I just enjoy this city, enjoy the fans, and thank you.
Once again, a big round of applause for our Joe Gemelli Fleur de Lis Award recipient, Peter Finney. We will break now for lunch, so lunch will be served. We'll resume the program in 15 minutes. So as you're eating lunch, you can check out some of the great moments in Saints history on the big screen. So we'll ask for lunch to be served right now. Enjoy the highlights, and we'll be back at you with our induction of Leroy Glover shortly.